Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Five Things Inside the Dancing Mind of. We are so happy. We are so happy to have our guest with us tonight, and Lindsay and Katie helping out a bit. I think you might be able to see her picture in the background because, as normal, we have tried to do a few more things. No videos except for one at the very end when it won't be a problem. But welcome back. I am Darlene Hamilton from the Historical Tea and Dance Society in Pasadena, California. And we hope that once things get back to normal, you'll come dancing with us. So let's see. Other things we have to take care of. If you want to ask a question, make sure you open up your chat box. Whether you're in Zoom, it's usually down at the bottom. It'll say chat, and you can ask a question in there. And if you're on Facebook Live, Katie is monitoring those questions there. So please feel free to say hello to her and ask a question via the chat box in Facebook Live. Let's see, what else do we need to take care of? Oh, yes, stick around for the after chat. At the end, I will be sending out, well, actually, everybody on the Zoom list got that link already, so you'll have to check your email again. And I will be posting it on Historical Tea and Dance Friends Facebook page. So hopefully everybody will get in. We have quite a full house of people that we expect to be coming in tonight. So make sure you come and join us right away in that after chat. So Lindsay, anything else we need to say off the top? Anything you want to tell people? Say hi.
Hi, everybody. I'll be playing some music. I will be showing some pictures, and that's about it.
Great. And we're so happy to have you with us. And we are happy to have our guest with us. Let me give you a little bio. Sharon started, a lot of you who don't know her will probably be surprised at this because I was, started dancing English country dance as a 48-year-old novice at Pinewoods English Week in 1988. So she is a living testament that it is never too late to start a hobby that you fall completely in love with and it changes your life. She has danced and are called in Canada, the UK, the Netherlands, Italy, Japan, and a lot of the United States. Many of you know her. An occasional choreographer, she is far less prolific than her mentor, Fried Herman, but she enjoys coming up with dances for friends. We all know her and love her from the solo dances at home that she's been creating for us. And once you spend this hour with her, you'll understand why she is beloved all over the country by anyone who knows her. Sharon Green, please say hi. So great to have you.
Thank you, Darlene. That was a pretty overwhelming introduction. I think I'll just sit here and blush for a while.
But it's all true. It's all true. So thank you for being here. It's so great to have you with us. We're going to jump right into the 5 things because there are so many wonderful stories and tales and adventures. So let's start off with Sharon's 5 things. And I should say that she's not going to be approaching this as a caller or a choreographer or a dancer, a dance leader, organizer. She's actually going to be talking about the histories, so mostly, and I'm sure other things will be touched on along the way. So thing number 1 is how it all began. Oh my gosh, at English Dance Week at Pinewoods in 1988. Tell us more about that.
Well, the fact that it was English Dance Week at Pinewoods was kind of a mistake. But what had happened is that my husband and I had moved from California, where we had been active in stuff like the Society for Creative Anachronism and the Dickens Fair and Renaissance Pleasure Fair. And we had moved to New York, where he was the director of the library at General Seminary. And we had been there just a couple of years, and we had a terrible year when all 4 of our parents died. It was a 14-month period. And after that, I was kind of depressed for a couple of years and just starting to think about being around people pretty much. And we were up in Maine with our friends Jody and Jody Lee and Michael Seaman, who lived with us. And it was a terrible weekend in Maine. We had gone up there thinking we were going to be sailing and hiking, and it was rainy, and there wasn't a boat in the water. And we went into town, and we're going to get a pizza. And there was a sign saying, "Last contra dance of the season." And Jody, who had already been doing contra dancing, said very forcefully, "We're going to the contra dance." And David and Michael and I, who were all at that point not really enthusiastic about doing this, because Jody had been disappointed by not getting to sail, we all went to the contra dance. And it was a very small contra dance. So they really needed to teach us everything, just which way was up, which way was down. And they went over things over and over again. And by the end of the evening, I thought, gee, maybe I could do this. So the next week when we were back in New York, I went with Jody to the contra dance. And it was the last contra dance of the season. But if you joined Country Dance New York, you could go to the members dance the next week. And so I joined Country Dance New York, and I went to the members dance, and it was this really good caller by the name of Ted Sanella. And I really felt, I could really do this. And that was really the last dance of the season, but I heard there were camps that you could go do contra dancing. So I called this place up in Massachusetts, and I asked if I could go to American Week to do contras, and they said, well, the wait list was so long that I would never get in, but there were shorter wait lists for English American Week and English Week. And not knowing any better, I said, oh, okay, sign me up for both. And I got into English Week, not ever having done English dancing and knowing no one who was going to be there. And so that was the beginning of my lifelong love affair with English country dancing, was turning up at Pinewoods as a total newbie and walking into walls for a week.
You have to tell that. Well, first, let me backtrack one moment.
Okay.
Lindsay, do you have that photograph before we miss that moment to show that wonderful photograph when Sharon and David were working out the Dickens Fair? Look at that. They were the original Reverend and Mrs. Gaskell. So some of you are familiar with the Gaskell Ball and the Gaskell name and such. So had to show that, had to take a moment to show that. Thank you, Lindsay. All right, we're back. Sharon, tell me that amazing story of what happened when...
Well, I can tell a little bit more about what was happening at Pinewoods that week, because
Great.
It was a great week. Brad Foster, who was the artistic and executive director, was program director, and Helena Cornelius, the wonderful, wonderful teacher of the Boston Center, was there. And for the first week ever, booked to call there was Frieda Metz-Hermann.
Wow.
And I was taking classes with all of them, or at least I was in the room for classes with all of them. And about Tuesday of the week, I had my first one-on-one encounter with Frieda Metz-Hermann. I was just walking along one of the paths, and Frieda was coming in the opposite direction, and she sort of veered over very purposely to me, and she said to me, with the first words out of her mouth to me, "You're going to have to work very hard because your feet are never on the phrase." And I sort of, then she went off, and I sort of went back to Grenoside, which was my cabin, which I shared with 5 other people. And I must have looked rather taken aback because the woman who was in the first cabin, the first room in Grenoside, came out and looked at me and said, "Sharon, what's the matter?" And I mumbled something about Free and what she had said, and the woman kind of nodded and shook her head, and she said, "Well, see, it's Free. She's Dutch, and she's very blunt. But when she was speaking to you, she was saying that she liked you and she thought she could help you and she wanted to be your friend. And this was Leah Barkin, who was the pianist at Country Dances of Westchester, where Freet was one of the two teachers and a lifelong friend of Freet's. And she made it all better. I don't know whether I would have lasted out the week if it hadn't been for Leah, but she was right, because Freet wanted to help me and she did want to become my friend, and she became one of my best friends ever.
Wow. That's, yeah. That's I love that story because boy, oh boy, can I think of a lot of times when people had a bad experience when they first came dancing and somebody said something and, you know, they took it the wrong way, or they certainly didn't take it like you did. I wish we all would take compliments in what seemed like criticisms in that way, because maybe our lives would certainly change in a different way. That's a pretty great story. I love that. So
a very good experience the whole week, because I knew enough that I was walking into what was a family reunion, that you come to a camp like Pinewoods and you're there for the first time and all these people haven't seen each other all year, and immediately they go rushing up to friends, they ask friends to dance, and you're just sort of, but I had enough sense to know, okay, it's a family reunion, they'll settle down, and eventually, it'll all be fine and you'll be part of the family. And that's what happened for me that week.
wow, I love that story. So let's move on to thing two, because I know we have a lot of stories to tell tonight. Thing two is the journey through dance, the travels, the journey through the creativity.
I look at it as travels with Freet, because that's what really happened in the course of my going to all the New York dances and Westchester dances, where she was one of the primary teachers. And eventually, well, we started going places. She was invited to call in Holland at the Christmas course there. And David and I and Michael all went over with Freet and Al and met her family over there in Holland, and were introduced to all sorts of people there at the week, including Colin Hume, who was one of the other guest teachers there.
Wow.
And yeah, it was, that was very special, just wandering around and having fresh herring and fresh raw herring. Okay, interesting. But she was a great traveling companion there. The only problem we ran into was at the weekend when she was, just seeing all her friends from Holland. She would come running up to me and start talking to me, but she'd be talking in Dutch.
Oh.
And I had to say, Freet. But one of the things she did for me that week, well, she knew I didn't know any Dutch. She knew David would get by with his German, but she was a Montessori teacher in an earlier stage. So she created for me what a Montessori teacher would do to help somebody learn a foreign language. Let me show you it, I'll get it. She put together a little book, and she would cut out the pictures and write the words in Dutch. And let's see, yes, in Windmolen. And I can't pronounce it, but that was
That would be my follow-up question. Did you learn Dutch?
not really. I relied on Freet and on David. So.
That's so great. We have a few photos we were going to show. Couple things.
Oh, okay. That was a different travel with Freet.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was in, I think, 1994 or thereabouts, when Freet came out to California with David and me, and we toured around with them. She actually called a little bit. She called it the Palo Alto Dance. I don't remember which other ones. but we went up to Muir Woods, and there was this nice hollow redwood tree. And so Fried and Al and I all got into it, and David took our picture as a memento of what was a very lovely time and a lovely trip. But my travels with her weren't always, physical trips to this place, that place. Part of what I consider major travels with Fried were when I was editing two of her volumes, the volume for Ease and Elegance and the volume for Fringe Benefits. In Ease and Elegance, Fried, for the first time, wrote a lengthy introduction where she described English country dance figures, talked about what she thought you needed to know as a caller or as a choreographer. And so it was a switch from my kind of being taught by Fried, and she would be leading me by the hand, and then when she would hand me all these little scraps of paper with notes on them, I would have to sort of sort them out and try to turn them into English, as opposed to occasional lapses into Dutch, or Dutch idiom, as opposed to the English idiom. And we had a wonderful, wonderful time together up in her little office, just sorting through all these bits and pieces of paper and going over page after page. It was a splendid time.
And we're going to show one thing in particular in a little bit, but let's show that great photo of Fried and Pat Shaw.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Came across. That's so great. Love that photo.
Yeah, you can just see how much affection she felt for Pat, who was her mentor, and whom she, at one point she even lived in the boarding house where Pat lived, Abernethy House in London, and she worked there as a house cleaner, just so that she could afford to stay in London and go to the dances with Pat and be working with him on his new choreographies and reconstructions. But yeah, I love that picture especially because it was in rags. It was a torn, not terribly good shape. And one of the days when we were working on Ease and Elegance, it came out of one of the piles of paper. And I looked at it and I thought, oh God, this is a wonderful picture, Fried. And so she took it to a photograph studio and had a proper copy of it made so that I could have a copy too. And it's one of my favorite pictures ever of her.
I love it. It's really wonderful, so expressive. And for those of you who are just listening in on the phone, I'm sorry you won't be able to see it, but we're still talking over the photos. We're going to show another photo of you and Fried.
Oh God. Yeah. Okay. Yes. One of the things we did in California was we went to an outlet store, Priest Goodness, and Fried and I would be trying on all these outrageous things, and Al would be sort of sitting and waiting for us to come out of the dressing rooms, and he would look at us and he'd say things like, "Oh no, Fried, no, it's here's a Sharon, but not you, Fried," and we wound up with these remarkable animal prints. That picture was taken at one of the free-for-alls, I believe.
I like the stuffies.
Yeah, well, Fried and I are both suckers for silly stuffed animals.
I like it. I like it. Let's see. We had a question that asked about if you know when that picture of Pat Shaw and Fried was taken.
No, I would imagine it was probably taken in England when one of the times she was there. It could have been taken in Holland at one of the Christmas courses, but it goes pretty far back. I would say sometime probably in the 50s.
Lindsay, I think we had one or two questions from the Zoom attendees about the historical aspect of dance. This might be a good place to take one of those.
Historical aspect of dance. All right, let's see what we have. Let's see, there is a question from Pamela Weens. I hope I said her name right. The question is, there's a big difference between the English country dance we do today and that was done 100 years ago in the US. How important do you think it is that we maintain the style of dancing that was done back then?
Well, since I wasn't around 100 years ago, I'm not quite sure how I can answer it, but mostly I think we are living in our time, and we're going to be responding to music in the way we do now. We'll do our best to maintain the posture, the elegance, but at the same time, part of this, it's social dancing, it's fun, it's always a paradox between we're doing it for fun, and we're doing it for historic reconstruction, and we're doing it as an art form. It's all that. It's all those things, and I think it's important that it be all those things, and that we be flexible enough to try to move in all those ways. I think that's as close as I can come.
That's a great answer. So that is good. I just, Free is known, I never met her certainly, but she's known for having taught in a very specific way. She wanted you to do things very specifically. And maybe you can talk to us about that for a moment.
Okay. Well, actually, I would say read the introduction to Ease and Elegance, because she really lays it out on the line, and they have actually reprinted that, which makes me so incredibly happy, because both Ease and Elegance and Fringe Benefits have been, out of print for what feels like forever to me. And I think Ease and Elegance is the really important one. You can follow all the rules and still have fun and still have your own individual imprint in the way you're dancing. Frida even acknowledged that to me one day, talking about a young woman who would always be doing things with her arms, and Frida would talk with her, and Frida, when she came to say, no, that's the way she dances, that's the way she feels it, and that's all right. And so
that's great. Thank you. Let's move on to this very significant part of your life. Lindsay, you have a photo to show, no, a piece of sheet music to show, and a little snippet of some music. And then Sharon will talk about it.
Yeah. Well, the sheet music is the original sheet music for Rose of Sharon, which is the dance that my husband David commissioned Frida to do for me for my 50th birthday, and which was a total surprise. And Frida even gave David the choice of tune And when she played him the Pepusch tune, he just knew that was the perfect one. And that sheet that you showed, well, that was the way Fried would present her commissioned works. She would do this entire hand calligraphed, beautiful page with, in many cases, original Fried illustrations. And in fact, I didn't get the actual page for months because she had to wait until the rose of Sharon bush in her backyard was blooming so she could have actual flowers that she could draw from. And then she went and colored it in.
That's so great.
Yeah.
That's so great. Oh, and there you are.
Yeah, that was at the Westchester 40th anniversary thing, and I brought the copy along to share with people.
That's wonderful. Well, you had a situation in your developing years of English country dance, shall we say, where you had two ends of the spectrum, because for thing two was your travels, your journey with Fried, and thing three is your time with Christine Hellwig.
Yes, and Christine and Fried were two of the three founders of the Westchester group, along with Phil Merrill, who is the original music director for CDSS. And they were an interesting combination, Fried and Christine, because Christine was all about historical reconstruction. And her background was Germanic, Quaker. She was politically astute, gracious. She served as, I think it was the town supervisor of Mamaroneck for something like 7 or 8 years, and was on various city commissions and things like that. Everybody absolutely adored Christine, from coast to coast. Whoever met her just thought that she was, yeah, there she is at the 1991 Country Dance New York Playford Ball in her magnificent outfit made by Kit Campbell, and just very, very wise, very, very, an amazing woman. And then there was Fried, totally, well, interested in modern choreography, puts it very mildly, and half Jewish, having lived through the Holocaust, not very fond of Germanic backgrounds, and just they were two opposites held together by often a very fine president of Country Dances of Westchester, and by Leah, and they were magnificent women, both of them. Christine actually not only was one of the co-founders of the Westchester group, but she and Marshall Barron founded the group in New Haven, which has been going on for forever. And she was an inspiration to people all over the country. I know, oh yes, and that photo that's just going up shows the group that she founded, the Chelsea English Country Dancers. And that's the whole group meeting in our living room in New York. Christine is seated, as you can see. I'm way over on the far side wearing a cat in the window t-shirt. Fried's Dance Cat in the Window inspired a certain amount of t-shirt buying. And at the far other side is Christine's husband, Ed Hellwig, who is a very fine dancer himself. They had both come into dancing in, I think it was the 50s. They came in as square dancers. But once they found English country, the square dancing took a back seat because they really got so involved with English country. And even in his 90s, Ed was a fine dance partner. He might leave out half the figures, but he would always be where you needed him to be.
Wow.
And that was just consummate as far as I was concerned. He was a lovely person to dance with. The Chelsea dancers, what we mostly did were demos of some of Christine's historical reconstructions. We would go to Nomad, the Northeast Music and Dance Festival, and perform on stage there. We would do things like, well, she had done a book of reconstructions of Thomas Bray's dances, and also later a book of reconstructions of Purcell dances, Purcell, Playford, and the English Country Dance, actually 2 volumes, one of which is the dances, and the other consists of arrangements of the music by her co-author, Marshall Barron. And so we got to dance a lot of amazing dances and perform them all over the place.
That's wonderful. And let's see, I think we have one more historical.
Oh, yes. I like this one. Yeah, this was that 1991 ball. You can see Christine is in her wonderful costume. In the front, seated is Marshall Barron, who's waiting to play. At the microphone is Marty Fager, who was the ball chair that year. He's currently a contra choreographer and caller. And if you look at Christine, you can just see the great affection she is feeling for one of her Chelsea kids getting up there and being in charge of things. And I love that photo of her just because of the look on her face.
It's a great photo. Okay, so let's see. I think I'm going to hold off a few of these questions till later because we're going to move on. But first, we're going to play a piece of music that's indicative to thing number 4. Lindsay's going to play a It's beautiful. So your thing 4 was a big move that you made.
Yeah, definitely. We always knew we were going to be moving back to California when David retired, because we had fortunately been able to keep our California house since they provided housing for us at the seminary. And so we were heading back west, and before we left, there were a bunch of parties for us, at one of which we were presented with Westward Bound that Philippe Callens had written for David and Michael and me on our returning to California. And that's a very, very special dance to me. I love teaching it. It's one of Philippe's lovely choreographies that works for all sorts of people. You know, it's not too much of a brain drain, and it's a wonderful tune that he chose.
I was looking at the video the other day, and we are going to post some links afterwards and send them out to them to the sign-up list so they can get a glimpse of these dances. I have not danced that one before, but it's on my must-do as soon as we start dancing.
Yeah, it's really good.
So tell us about your move to California, and then I love it, the move and the Japan connection. So that was kind of.
Well, yeah, that all happened kind of instantly. We moved in September of 2002 to our newly remodeled house, and basically no sooner had we gotten to California than we started getting involved in English country dance stuff. And sometime the year before, there had been an ad in the CBSS News saying that a gentleman from Japan was interested in corresponding about English country dancing. And Bruce Hamilton had answered that ad and had gotten into correspondence with a gentleman by the name of Hiroyuki Ikema. And Ikema-san was a teacher of Scottish country dancing. He had come to America in the 50s as a graduate student at NYU and had been adopted by one of the local Scottish clubs. And so they sent him back to Japan with all this Scottish stuff. And there was a very strong connection in Japan to folk dancing, which I had no idea about, so I started doing research on this. Anyway, Ikema-san and Bruce corresponded, and the next thing you know was that Ikema-san wanted to come to the United States to dance. And we had no idea, we had no idea what we should do, what was proper, culturally right. Did we put them up in our houses? At any rate, we consulted with Jenny Beer, who, in addition to being a fine choreographer and caller and lovely person and former resident of California, had also made her work at a firm called Culture at Work, which helped interpret foreign cultures for American business people who are having to deal with Japan and other places of interest. And she told us, no, you don't have to put him up in your home. He's very happy to stay in a hotel. That's customary. But he does expect to go out for meals and would like to be shown around. And so we kind of arranged all of that. And he had a very nice visit. Katie Rima, Mary Luckhart's daughter, who was then Katie Grist, took him around and showed him Tilden Park and the merry-go-round and all sorts of wonderful things. She's an absolutely adorable young woman, and Ikema-san was very fond of her in a sort of 70-year-oldish way. He had a great time, and the next year he invited Bruce to come to Japan and teach there. And the year after, he invited me to come to Japan and teach there. And then in 2007, he decided it would be nice to bring about a dozen or 20 Japanese to America for about a week or 10 days or so. And what would be a good event? And he decided the good event would be the Mad Robin Ball of 2007, which I happened to be the caller for. So we crafted a week's work of things to do, working with the Scottish country dancers and the international dancers for some things. And we had Jenny and Tom Roby, who also knew Japanese, come out from the East Coast to be with the group and help shepherd them around. We had a welcome dance, which was played by the Flying Romanos, and a closing dance also with the Romanos. And my ball had Marnin from the Romanos, Jim Oakton, and the wonderful Chuck Ward on piano for it. And it was so splendid. The picture you showed shows Jenny Beer, Ikema-san, Norma Castle, the flautist from the Romanos, and Bruce Hamilton. And I believe that was probably the Grand March, which I think I got somebody else to lead because I'm terrible at leading Grand Marches.
Now, I'm curious, you had Tom and Jenny come out and they helped with the language barrier, but what was it like teaching or calling?
In Japan?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it was interesting. I mean, the wonderful story that Bruce told me. You see, Bruce is the champion of zero syllable calling, as I refer to it. That's, you talk as little as humanly possible to get your people moving. And so when Bruce was over, he would say something very briefly, but then Ikema-san would start translating, and he would go on, and he would go on, and you knew he was saying so many different things. So I was kind of aware that that was going to be what happened to me, and indeed it did happen, but it was fine. You demo a lot, and yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a great story, and obviously you can see how much joy it brought to you. So let's go on to thing number 5, because we do have a lot of questions. So thing number 5 is when in doubt, organize.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, that seems to be the story of my life, really. I mean, it was true back in the fair when I organized the Gaskells. It was true, back in Ren Fair when David and I organized a group of people to go out and do the litany. And it was true back in New York when the English dance was basically not really being self-supporting, and there was a certain amount of concern that might have to not be able to do it every week, or might have to cut hours short, do all sorts of things like that just to survive. And so I got together with Kit Campbell, and we created a weekend called True Brit, with the premise that all the callers and all the apprentices and all the musicians who joined in to make it work were not going to be paid, but they would have very limited schedules. They would be, getting free food, free lodging, free everything. They would get to work with musicians they really like to work with, and do everything we could to make them happy. And we all knew we had to do it to keep dancing, English dancing, alive in New York. So when in doubt, organize. And I think it's the same thing that's happened. I mean, we didn't know what to do with the Kame-san when he showed up, but we had to organize. We had to make something happen. And that's sort of what I've been doing now too, with the solo adaptations and getting started learning how to do calling on Zoom, which is certainly well above my pay grade. I mean, wow. I mean,
You
I'm a technophobe. My gosh, what am I doing here?
doing a great job and keeping us all happy and active. So yeah, it's great.
That's what we need. We need to have our connection, and we need to be comfortable and feel secure that we're dancing something that is connected to the English country dancing that we love. And that's what I'm trying to do in my adaptations. So
I have a feeling too that a lot of the people that are newer who don't always know the names of dances will know the names of dances more, because they'll say, oh, I did something like this with Sharon. So
well, I really actually think I need to work on a thing. The adaptations are really very much for experienced dancers, because they're the ones who can freely dance it. And I would like to do something that would work with the newer dancers and help them the way Renee is working with them. She's working from a ballet perspective, which is very good, but I could never begin to emulate that. But I can, teach some of Freet's basics. And,
great.
we're all trying to do things, to make it work.
That'd be great. I think a lot of us would love to know more about that as well, but we love what you're doing too. We're going to show a photo, play a snippet of music, because there's something else that you worked on organizing. And you heard some of it as we were coming in, as you were waiting for the event to start. So we're going to play a little bit of another piece of music from that CD.
Yep, Juniata. Yeah, it's a Jonathan song, "Drifting on the Dreamy Juniata." Yeah, that actually combines a lot of stuff because the choreography of Juniata, the opening, comes from Wise Me's choreography, which I learned as part of Christine's demo team. We demoed that as part of the Purcell programs that we were doing. And Jonathan posted the song on Facebook and didn't think there was a dance in it. And I essentially said, "I want it, Jonathan." And he let me have it. And so we have the dance Juniata. And eventually, when I turned 75, I decided I wanted to organize a CD of my dances at that stage. And we imported Jonathan, and I had Rebecca and Rebecca King, John Berger, and Shira Kamen. Uh, I, I had this wonderful team of local musicians and our Jonathan, who I think he's written the tunes for about a third to half of the dances I've ever written. And yeah, I'm really lucky that he lets me get away with it. But I've also figured out that knowing some of them from back in the day, I have known that foursome 5 years ago for 120 years, because I knew Shira when she was in high school. I knew John when he was at UC Santa Cruz, but was also working Dickens Fair. I knew Rebecca from, well, at that point, 15 years before, when I took my 5-year-old grandson to Family Week, and she was there, and we were all in the same cabin. And I knew Jonathan from, I think, around 91 or 92, when he had his daughter with him at Pinewoods at English Week. So.
Wow, that's, yeah, those, that sounds like a whole lot of more stories right there. I love it. Oh, yeah. Somebody's saying we are eagerly awaiting the next CD.
Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. I mean, poor Shira is trying to do the editing with Derek, but it's a little hard to do when you're sheltering in place. And so we were aiming for getting it all out via Oasis at June or July for heydays when Jonathan was supposed to be coming out. And now there doesn't seem to be an occasion. So it's going to get done when it gets done. But it'll be good. I mean, I've heard the beginnings of it, so.
Well, that'll be great. And your CD is still available, so it is available through CDSS, and I'm not sure if it's available other sources, but
you can get it from me as well.
Okay.
It's a little here, yeah. But and also AADS, the Anglo-American Dance Shop. He keeps on ordering 10 of them or so every little while, because they seem to be very popular over in Europe. So AADS, and I'm sure Folk Sales will have some. I don't know whether they already do, but they're still reopening.
That's great. We had a question, and I'm hoping I'm putting her on the spot. I'm promoting her up. Hopefully she's listening. Rebecca King, are you out there? You had a great question. I'm putting her on the spot though, but I will ask it if she's not there, or if she's not able to
Well,
come. Yay!
Hello.
Hello, Rebecca.
It says I'm unable to start my video, but I can hear you.
Okay.
You had a question that I wanted you to ask live because it was a great question.
Working with Sharon is amazing because she is always joyous. If there's a chaos happening, Sharon is joyous. If she's organizing a camp and there's chaos, Sharon is joyous. And if everyone is sleepless, Sharon is joyous. And I was just really wondering how she does it.
I'm not going to say it's Diet Coke.
I was wondering if it was Diet Coke.
One, basic rule, never let them see you sweat. Okay. Number two, if you're upset, your dancers will be upset. And I think that's really important because nothing we're doing is that important and everything we're doing is important. And it's the paradox thing I was talking about before. Everybody cares tremendously. So you've got to stay positive. You've got to, and you know, it's actually easy for me to be happy just looking out at, you know, the faces of my friends when I'm calling, seeing people get it for the first time or not get it and be okay with that. And you know, there's so much out there to love that, you know, if we got a choice, why not be happy? Yeah.
Wow, that's really wonderful. Thank you so much, Sharon. I love you.
I love you too, Rebecca, so much. You gave me one of my best tunes ever. Child's Christmas in Berkeley. She's wonderful.
Oh, well, that was a great question. All right, so let's ask the question that we always ask everybody. What is your favorite dance?
Okay, well, I'm stuck with that one because I've got 3 favorite dances because they were gifts. And I've been given wonderful gifts in my life. The first, of course, was Rose of Sharon, which was David's gift to me. And it was my introduction to a world of dancers, because wherever we went, in Holland or in England, people said, "Oh, you're the Rose of Sharon," and you know, that was an amazing introduction to people. And then the second, of course, is Westward Bound, which was such a gift from the community and from Philippe. And the third one, which came as a major surprise, it was when I was the program director for Pinewoods English Week in 2011. And Philippe was on my staff, and Jonathan was on my staff. And David and Michael and I were all there. And Michael had been commissioned by our kids Lexi Green and Philip Green, to get a dance written for us by Philippe and Jonathan. And on the final demo day of camp, when I had worked carefully on the schedule of what was going to be happening, there was a surprise demo of a dance called Golden Green for our 50th wedding anniversary. And that is a magnificent dance. And I recommend people finding the video of Philippe teaching it to a group in England, which includes a number of Americans. Mark and Lucy Weinstein are there, and I saw Gretchen was there. But it's a really, really phenomenal video of one of, I think, Philippe's best dances.
We're going to post some links about those dances. And I have, since, you know, you mentioned you and David and anniversary, let's show that beautiful picture. We have some other beautiful pictures on the slideshow at the end. we particularly just love this one. Oh,
Yeah.
great picture. Okay, thank you, Lindsay. So another question that people always ask us, they say, well, did you remember to ask, are you a tea drinker and what's your favorite tea? Because we are the Historical Tea and Dance Society.
Well, I'm not a very frequent tea drinker, but there is a combination of English breakfast tea with a little bit of honey in it, and no milk, just a little honey and that. And especially if my throat is feeling that I've been calling too long or too loud, that is very soothing and lovely.
Well, that sounds good. But I heard that there was a drink of choice, and in fact, tell us about that beautiful quilt.
Okay. Okay, let me just adjust things so maybe people can see the beautiful quilt a little bit better. And I'll move some of my 5 million things here. When we left New York, in addition to Westward Bound, the New York and greater East Coast dance community had been sneaking around in kitchens and things like that, and getting out of our way at dances for about a year, handing each other bits and pieces of cloth because they decided that we needed to have a quilt. It takes a very large bed to handle this quilt, and there are some wonderful, wonderful squares on it. Helena Cornelius, who didn't do that sort of thing, had a square, and there's a wonderful square that Rowena Rudman made with the design that you see on all of Gary's books. And there's another one that, oh Lord, Robin Hayden's is a especially beautiful one. They're just amazing. And there is the phenomenal Diet Coke can, which Nancy Boyd did all the embroidery except for the bubbles. The little teeny tiny bubbles were done by Art Munisteri because that was about as much as he could stitch. So,
That's such a great memory quilt.
yeah,
Such a great memory quilt.
It's lovely to be able to put it out and share it with people this way.
It is hard to believe that we are at the end of our hour together, and I want to let everyone know out there that we're going to give Sharon a moment to say goodbye, but then we are going to show, we're going to play a piece of music and show a very short video of a whole bunch of different photographs that we just loved, so we didn't want to not show them. And then we will post the where to donate screen because, all our people that are out of work in this community are beautiful musicians and callers and other people, teachers. Show them some love, and you'll see that. So anyway, then we will go to the after talk, and Sharon will be joining us. We will take a lot of the questions that we didn't get to tonight, and it's a lot of fun. So please make sure to come back. Sharon, thank you for being with us this hour. We're looking forward to the next hour, and it gives you a chance to say goodbye to the folks here who've dropped in.
Okay, gang. Love you all. Okay. Thank you, Lindsay. It's been, I'm in tears. Okay.
Well, we're going to show some wonderful photos.
Okay.
And play that wonderful Golden Green, that beautiful tune. And we'll see you in a few minutes at the after chat.
Okay.
to put up the splash screen, and we're going to send out the link to everyone. We're going to start the Zoom after chat soon. Thank you, Sharon. I hope you enjoyed all those photos. And thank you to Paul Ross for sending us that one. That was great of you with the Rose of Sharon. So anyways, we'll see you all in a few minutes. We'll leave the splash screen up as to where to donate.